Hey guys, my name is Lauren and welcome to my channel, and today I need to talk to you about the books that I've purchased recently. I can't wait any longer. There's going to be a few more on here that I haven't received yet. They are on their way in the mail, and tracking is kind of spotty right now, as most of you know, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about them because I can't wait to receive them. But we definitely need to go ahead and jump straight into these books because I have 37 of them to talk about with you. And this video, I don't even know how long it's going to end up being. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about the books. I have them kind of sorted out by how I want to discuss them. So I think first I'm going to talk about some books that you have seen me talk about on my channel, whether I've read them or have put them on TBRs, and I just haven't officially hauled them. So I'm just going to kind of talk briefly about them. So the first book is one that I have already read and I have a couple of tabs in, but it is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I think a lot of people are familiar with Elizabeth Acevedo's writing and have read her books, but this one in particular is about two sisters whose father passes away in a plane crash, and they actually don't know each other exists until their father passes away. And it kind of tells the story of how each of them copes with the passing of their father, and also how they're coping with finding out the other exists and that their father basically led two lives. And it's just a really touching story that I related a lot to in more ways than one. And the writing is also written in verse, and it's so poetic and moving, and it makes it more emotional as well since it's written in verse. And I really enjoyed this one, and I just thought that I needed to go ahead and officially haul it, even though you guys have already heard me talk about this one in a wrap-up. The next one is You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria, and this one is about two telenovela actors who actually are love interests on screen and they have a romance off screen, and I am really interested in this one. I really love romance. It's the genre that I've read the most of, really. So I'm excited to get into this one, and you have heard me talk about this on my TBR, and I'm hoping to get to it in this month of November. And the next one is another one that you guys have heard me talk about a few times, and it is I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erika L. Sanchez. This one sounds like it's going to be really emotional and moving. It is about a young girl whose sister passes away. The girl joins forces with her best friend to prove to her parents that her sister wasn't as perfect as they thought she was, and she ends up finding out some really big secrets about her sister's life. And I think that it's going to be kind of a coming of age story for the younger sister, while also having a bit of an emotional aspect since she did lose her sister in a tragic way. And I'm really excited to get to this one as well this month, and I'm also excited to have it in my collection. The next one is one that I have already read in a vlog, but it is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and I really enjoyed this one. It is a sort of paranormal ghost haunted house kind of story. It is about a girl who lives in Mexico. She is a socialite, and it is set in the 1950s, and her father gets a letter from her cousin who has moved to the rural area of Mexico with her new English husband and his family, and the letter states that the cousin is in danger. Her husband has been acting suspicious. She feels like he may be poisoning her, and so the father sends the socialite cousin, off to kind of investigate and check to see if her cousin is all right. And some creepy, weird things start happening in the house, and it was very interesting to read, and exactly what you would need for a spooky season read. And for me, spooky season isn't just in October. It kind of carries on throughout the year, but especially in the colder months, there's just something so great about getting your blanket and a cozy drink and cuddling up on the couch and reading something that's scary or thriller-esque, and I think this one is perfect for that. And the next one is one that is by an author that I really enjoy reading, and it is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and I'm actually in the middle of this one right now, and I'm really enjoying it so far. But it is about Maggie, who is going back to a home that she lived in as a child that was actually haunted, and her father wrote a story about their days in this house and then leading up until the night that they fled from it in the middle of the night. And the book has become an international sensation, and Maggie has drawn a lot of attention, and so has the house, obviously. And her father passes away, and she finds out that her family actually still owned it, and she inherits it, and she goes back to the house to fix it up and sell it, and creepy things start happening. I mean, they happen almost immediately in the story, and I love Riley Sager's writing a lot, and I now own every one of his books, and I really enjoy them, and I'm glad to have this one in my collection of Riley Sager thrillers. And this is the last one that you guys have heard me discuss before, but it is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, and this is about a girl who lives in a world where there is multiverse travel, but the rule is that you can't travel to another universe where one of your doppelgangers is still alive. And we follow this girl who has actually died in several other universes, so she's able to travel very frequently between the different universes. And then she's kind of thrust into a mystery because her last few doppelgangers start dying off, and she wants to figure out what exactly is going on. And I know there is also a bit of a sapphic romance in here. I've seen several people rave about this book and say that they really enjoy it, and so I'm looking forward to it. I have loved the sci-fi books that I've read in the past, and I'm looking to read more, so I'm definitely looking forward to this one. So the next books that I'm going to kind of discuss are ones that I bought for myself for my birthday, which was in October, and we kind of had a bit of a social distancing vacation, and we did go to a local bookstore there called Interabang Books, and I got 3 books from them, and it was really cool because they put a bookmark in each of the books, and the bookmark that they gave me, it's the same one in every book, but it's kind of got a little bit of a spooky vibe to it, and you can kind of see that it's got people on it in their Halloween costumes. And then there's a little bag down here, and it says Trick or Books, and it's got books in the trick-or-treat bag instead of candy. And I thought this was really cute and really neat that they put these in each book that you purchase. And like I said, I got 3, so now I have 3 new bookmarks that I can store and use as I read, because you can never have too many bookmarks as a reader. But the books that I purchased from Interabang Books were They Wish They Were Us by Jessica Goodman. And I know that this is like a young adult thriller mystery, and I believe that the main character in the story, her best friend had passed away many years ago, and her best friend's boyfriend was committed of the murder at the time. But during the time of this story, there has been new evidence come to light that may prove that the boyfriend wasn't actually the culprit. So it's kind of a mystery of finding out what happened to her best friend. And I don't know if there's another mystery that's currently happening in the story. So actually in reading this, it says that our main character is getting text messages that is proclaiming the boyfriend's innocence. And so she kind of has to figure out what exactly happened to her best friend. I love a good thriller, and I also kind of love high school drama, and I haven't read a story with some good high school drama in a while, and I think that this one's going to kind of give me that. And I have seen it in a few places. I haven't seen too much about it, but the premise behind it really intrigues me, and I do enjoy a good thriller, and so I'm looking forward to getting into this one. The next one that I got from Interabang Books was The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed, and this takes place in 1992 during the protests of the beating of Rodney King. And I believe our main character goes to a private school, and it speaks in the synopsis about the perfect Black family facade that her family has created, and how this event has affected her in her new life, and she becomes one of the Black kids. I think that this is going to be a very moving story, and Nick Stone actually blurbed it, who is the author of Dear Martin, which is a story that I haven't read, but I do have it on my TBR, and I'm very interested in it as well. but I think that especially in this year, this story is important to read, and I'm looking forward to having it. And I mean, this cover is just like gorgeous. I love the picture in her sunglasses. It's got the palm trees that you would associate with Los Angeles, but they're burning. So I'm excited to have this one, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. And the final one I picked up from Interabang was Beach Read by Emily Henry, and this is kind of supposed to be a romance, but I've heard that it's not as light as this cover and title would portray it to be, that there's a bit deeper discussions in it, I guess. But what I know of the plot is that it is about two authors who go to this vacation area, seemingly on the beach, where they are both trying to write, but they are both having writer's block. And I'm not exactly sure what genre each of them write, but to get rid of their writer's block, they decide to swap genres, and they end up getting involved, I do believe. So I think a lot of the criticism that I have seen for this book was that it was portrayed as a light, fluffy beach read, but that there are a lot of deeper aspects that are discussed in the story. But I'm really looking forward to it because I think that most people have enjoyed it. This was one that was talked about a lot during this summer, so I'm looking forward to getting into it. Okay, the next books that I have, it's quite a few of them, but I divided them up kind of by genre, and they're books that I picked up at Barnes & Noble. Yeah, they were kind of a birthday gift to myself, and I went a little crazy, and it's just kind of a mixture of books that I was looking forward to in 2020, books that I've seen people discuss on BookTube that they've read in the past that I didn't know existed until I got into BookTube, and I'm really interested in seeing what all the hype is behind them. So the first couple are thrillers, and first thriller is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, and I've seen a lot of people talking about this recently, and I know of the plot that it is about gentrification in a Brooklyn neighborhood. We have a main character who is Black, and she moves back to her neighborhood, and she notices that a lot of her neighbors are up and disappearing and being replaced by white people. And I know that it is compared to Get Out a lot, the movie Get Out, and so I think there's something a lot more sinister going on behind the scenes, and we kind of get thrust into a mystery of figuring out what exactly is going on. But I've seen a lot of people really enjoy this one, and as I've said, I enjoy a good thriller, and I think this one has a really interesting premise, and so I'm looking forward to getting into it. The other one is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and I don't know much about this one. It's just, I know that it's Riley Sager, and I know that this is actually a lot of people's favorite Riley Sager book, but it's interesting because I think this has one of the lowest ratings on Goodreads of his books. So I'm interested to get into it because I do love Riley Sager's books, and I know that a lot of people don't like The Last Time I Lied as much, but I really enjoyed that one, so I think I'll enjoy this one as well. So the next ones that I'm going to discuss are romances, but the first one is What You Wish For by Catherine Center. And I have read one of Catherine Center's books before, and I know that she writes romance, but she also kind of writes about people kind of finding themselves. At least that's what happened in the other book I read by her. So I know that this story is about a teacher within a school, and the school has gotten a new principal, and she worked with him previously, and now he is a bit more uptight, and she didn't know him to be that way before. So I think it's just her kind of getting to know the new him, and I assume there's going to be a romance between the two of them. That's about all I know. I really picked it up because of her, and I know that I enjoyed the other book a lot, and I enjoyed her writing style and her characters. So I think I'll enjoy this one, and I just kind of picked it up as an auto buy pretty much, but here we are. And the next one I don't think needs much of an explanation, but it is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And obviously so many people have ranted and raved about this story. They love it, and I did not know that it was there until I got into BookTube, but considering how much everyone else loves it, I'm really looking forward to reading it. As I've discussed before, romance is probably my most read genre, probably my favorite genre. I just love a good romance, but it is about the first son of the United States and the prince of England, and they have a romance. I think it's an enemies to lovers romance. They actually have a bit of a falling out, a public feud, I guess. To make people think that they are getting along, they decide to pretend to date, and we all know fake dating leads to real dating and real love. So I'm looking forward to this one. So many people have loved this, and I can't wait to get into it. And the next two are actually companion novels in a series that I did not realize were a series when I read the second book in the series, which companion novels obviously means that you don't have to read the first book in the series to understand what's going on. So that's why I didn't even realize. But they are The Wedding Date and The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. So The Wedding Date is another fake dating story, and I believe the two main characters get stuck in an elevator together, and the male character has to go to his ex's wedding, and he asks the woman that he gets stuck in the elevator with to go to his ex's wedding with him, and they're fake dating. They fall in love, most likely. So I'm really looking forward to this one. It's fake dating is probably one of my favorite tropes. I don't know why. I just really enjoy it. So I did also I read The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, and I really enjoyed that one. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy this one, and I'm going to be excited to kind of see how the characters from The Proposal were in this book. So we'll see. And this one is The Wedding Party, and it is about two friends of the girl from this story who I think they kind of hate each other from what the synopsis says, but they end up having a one-night stand, and then they can't stop thinking about each other, and so they're kind of sneaking around behind their best friend's back as they help prepare for her wedding. And I just, like I said, I enjoy Jasmine Guillory's writing. I enjoy the characters she writes and the romance, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next couple that I'm going to talk about are actually sci-fi novels by the same author, and I didn't even realize it when I bought them. But this first one is one that I've seen a lot of on BookTube that I've never read, and I know a lot of people really love this series, but it is The Illuminate Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So from what I understand in the synopsis, we are several years into the future, and the world is kind of in chaos. There are two mega corporations who are kind of fighting for control, and the citizens have to flee, and something happens, and our main character in the story is trying to figure out what exactly is going on, what's the truth, and she discovers that the only person who can help her is her ex-boyfriend, who she no longer speaks to. So I think there's going to be some romance in there, but it's very interesting because it's kind of told in literal files, like it's files that tell the story, and it's different format throughout. So this looks pretty chunky, but I think with the format and some of the, I mean, look, this is just like the text is down here. So some of this is going to be very quick. I think it's going to go by a lot faster than I think, and I am excited that it's a series that's, I think it's complete. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know a lot of people love this, and so I'm hoping I will also love it. And the next one is another series that I know a lot of people are also loving, and it is Aurora Rising by also Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So Aurora Rising follows a group of misfits, basically. They're in a squad. I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to do, but I know that their leader has rescued Aurora, who was in a cryo sleep for years. So when she wakes up, she is not in the same time zone that she thought she was anymore, but she's kind of the key to solving their problems. So I'm looking forward to this one. I know a lot of people are enjoying it, and I think I'm going to enjoy it, and I have been wanting to read more sci-fi. So here we have it. And the next ones that I have are fantasy stories, and I have a few of those. So the first one is one that I've seen everywhere. People are loving this story, and it is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. And this story follows a girl who is going to a pre-college program, and it's got a bit of a dark academia feel to it, and she discovers these people who are descendants of King Arthur, and she also kind of starts discovering things about her mother's death that maybe it wasn't what she originally thought she was. So there's kind of a mystery aspect to it. But I have seen people just raving about this story, and I'm excited. This cover is just gorgeous. Like, you see the videos of people showing this cover and it just doesn't do it justice compared to when you see it in person. It's just this, I'm excited about this one, really excited about this one, and I can't wait to get into it, and I'm hoping I can get into it before the end of the year. This is going to be one that I think I'm going to prioritize as soon as possible. And the next one is by an author that I really have enjoyed in fantasy, and I haven't picked up any other books by her because I don't know, I don't really have a reason. But her Shadowhunter series is one of the only fantasy series that I've read, and I really enjoyed it. And I don't know why I didn't think to like look more into the fantasy genre because of how much I did enjoy the City of Bones series. But I picked up Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, and I don't know much about the plot of the story, but I do know that it follows more of the Shadowhunter series. And I did recently see that that this follows the events of another one of her series. So I may need to look into that before I actually get into this. But I mean, this cover is gorgeous, and this is actually a pretty chunky book, and I don't know, that kind of makes me excited. Does anybody else get kind of excited about conquering a chunkier book? I've actually been thinking about rereading the Mortal Instruments series through audiobook, so I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna look more into the series that was supposed to have happened before this, but I know that Cassandra Clare is beloved, and I'm excited. I'm a fan. We will see how it goes. And the next one is another one that I've seen a lot of places, but it is Jade City by Fonda Lee, and I know that the sequel is also out, which is called Jade War. But I know that this follows a world where Jade can give you power, and there are two families who control the distribution of Jade. But there comes in a third family who I believe is trying to shift that power that those two families have, and so there's a bit of a war that takes place, and I don't know much more than that, but the premise just sounds so interesting, and I know that several people whose recommendations I trust online say that they have really enjoyed this, and so I'm eager to dig into it and get into fantasy. This sounds exactly like the kind of fantasy I'm looking for, something that seems a little bit more modern, I guess. So I'm excited about it, and I can't wait. And it's kind of great that the sequel's already out, so if I do end up loving this, I can go ahead and maybe check out the sequel from my library. And the next one is another one that I'm very excited to get, and I went to a couple of different stores to pick it up because they had the sequel but they didn't have this one. But it is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh, and I think a lot of people already have heard what happens in this story, kind of, but I saw someone else say that they were told that that's actually a spoiler, so I'm not going to mention it, but I will tell you that this was set in the late 1800s in New Orleans, which I am excited about that because there's just so many like spooky things behind New Orleans, and I went there and it's actually one of my favorite places. But this story follows a girl who has fled from Paris, and she moves to this place and there are girls dying, and so there becomes a fear that there's a serial killer in New Orleans, and it kind of follows that mystery, and then she becomes directly involved with the serial killer, it seems, in the synopsis. So I think most people kind of know what exactly happens, but I don't want to spoil it. I think that's supposed to be part of the twists, but I'm very interested in this one, probably because of the aspect that I'm not mentioning. Like, that's the part that kind of is intriguing me the most, I think. So if you want to kind of look more into this, you could definitely find out what it is that I'm being so vague about, and probably it will draw you in as well. But I'm excited about this one. This might be the one that I am most looking forward to. And the next one is one that I've also heard a lot of people love, and it is The Wicked Fox by Kat Cho, and it is about a girl who is a gumiho, which is a nine-tailed fox who she has to consume the life force of men every full moon or die herself. So the story starts, I believe she comes across a handsome man who she ends up actually saving, and then she ends up losing her gumiho spirit, and the story kind of follows that. From what I know that Books with Chloe enjoyed this story, so I'm actually really intrigued, and it is based on, it says, K-dramas and Korean folklore. So I'm always interested in learning about the folklore of other countries. They always have such, it's just interesting. It's just interesting to learn about. And I'm excited to get into this one as well. And the next one is one that I haven't seen around too much, but it is Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. And this follows a story of a girl who is a memory thief, and she is kidnapped years before, and she's kind of made to be a spy. And the love interest is a guy who gets captured, and she ends up having to take on his mission as her own. But along the way, she kind of discovers things about her own past that she didn't know. So I know that I've seen a few people talk about this and say that they enjoy it, and this cover is just like, it draws you in, okay? So I'm excited to get into this one, and I'm just really excited about the fantasy books that I've got. I'm just, you know, I'm excited. I think I've said excited like 1,500 times in this video, but you guys, I mean it. I'm thrilled. I'm stoked. I'm looking forward to reading all of these books. And the next one is another one that I think is going to be really moving. And it is Punching the Air by Ibi Zoboi and Yusuf Salaam. Yusuf Salaam is actually one of the exonerated 5. And so this story kind of follows something similar that happened to him. And the main character in our story is convicted of a crime that he did not commit. So I think that this one is going to be very emotional and moving, and I'm really looking forward to that kind of story. I'm eager to have more stories in my collection, have that kind of empowering storyline. I think that Yusuf Salaam's take on this is going to make the story even better, and I have seen people say that they really enjoy this, so I'm looking forward to getting into it. The next one is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this story follows a girl who loves to cook. She enjoys cooking a lot, but she finds herself having to take care of her young daughter and her abuela, her grandma, and that kind of puts her dreams of becoming a cook on the back burner. But the story kind of follows her, I think, coming into herself and finding out how important that task is for her, and maybe balancing that with the caretaking aspects of her life. So I enjoy Elizabeth Acevedo's writing. This one actually isn't written in verse the same way that the Poet X and Clap When You Land is, but the chapters are actually very short, so I still think that it's going to be poetic because it is Elizabeth Acevedo, and that's just what she does and what she's good at. But I am looking forward to this one. I know that a lot of people enjoy it. And the next one is Anna K by Jenny Lee, and this says a love story, but I think it has a lot of also high school drama because I've seen it kind of compared to Gossip Girl, but it is also a reimagining of Anna Karenina. So I've never read Anna Karenina, but I have heard someone talk about that they really enjoyed this story, and like I said before, I kind of enjoy a high school drama type story, and I didn't read the Gossip Girl books in their entirety. I think I read a couple of them, but I love the TV show, so I'm very intrigued by this. I know that we follow Anna and a few of her friends, and it's just kind of their life as teenagers and falling in love with friendship in the mix, so we'll see. Okay, if the camera angle is different, my phone ran out of memory and I had some other stuff I was doing, so it's now dark out. But to continue the book haul, I also have Troubles in Paradise by Ellen Hilderbrand, and this is the third in a series, and we are following a family who the husband and father of the family has passed away, and there are mysterious things coming to light about his life, and we just kind of follow his family discovering these aspects and meeting new people who are also affected by his choices. And I'm excited about this one. I've waited a year for this part in the series, and this is the final part. We're finally going to get some answers and get a conclusion to it all, so I'm looking forward to it. And the next one I have is This Is My America by Kim Johnson, and this one is going to be a really moving story. This follows a young girl who has been writing to an organization to help free her father for a crime that he did not commit. And in the midst of all of that, her brother is then arrested for a crime, and she is thrust into a situation where she has to discover the details of this crime and figure out what exactly happened so that she can free her brother. But I think that this is going to be a very powerful story, and just to kind of give you an idea of why I think that, I will just read what the little back blurb says. But it says, "They look at my father and think murderer. They look at my brother and think thug. They look at me and think I'll be quiet. They are wrong." So I'm really excited to get into this story, and I'm looking forward to finding out how it plays out. And the next ones I have are actually Book of the Month picks, and the first one I have is Leave the World Behind by Ruman Alam, and this is a thriller, mystery, suspense novel about a couple who is staying at a rental home outside of New York City, and there is a blackout that covers the entire city, and a couple shows up at this home and claims to own it, but there's no way for this couple that has been staying there to confirm this because of the power outage. So I think it's going to be a bit of a psychological twisty thriller. The next one is a cover by, but it was Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Bouchardoust. And like I said, this is a cover by. I just thought this cover was gorgeous, and I did read the synopsis, but all I can tell you about it is that it is about a princess who is poisonous to the touch. So that does intrigue me a lot. And the next one is one that I don't think I have to give the summary for, but it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And this book has obviously been everywhere, and people have been raving about it, or people have been a little disappointed by it. I've never read a V.E. Schwab book, and they do say that this is different than her other writings, so I think that it's going to be good that this is the first one that I've gotten into by her. But this follows a girl who has made a deal with, some people call it the devil, but I think in the story they call it the darkness. But she wants to live forever, and he agrees to this. But the catch is that everyone she meets will forget her until one day she meets a man in a bookshop who does remember her. And the next two are Book of the Month picks that haven't arrived yet, but the first one is Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane, and this is another thriller, psychological type book, and I think that we're going to have a very unreliable narrator, but I definitely picked this one up based on the last line of the synopsis, because I read it and I was like, because that sounds crazy. So I kind of recommend you don't read the synopsis. I don't know, for me it drew me in, but at the same time I feel like this is going to be harder hitting if you don't know anything going into it. And the next Book of the Month pick I have is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. And this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, so it is also a romance, and I don't really know much more than that. I know there's some like gang things happening, and it's gonna be a romance, Romeo and Juliet retelling. It's the one that caught my eye before I read the synopsis for Pretty Little Wife, but I'm eager to read it as well. And the next three that I'm going to talk about are Amazon first read choices. And the first one is The Cipher by Isabel Maldonado. And it is a story about an FBI agent who had previously been kidnapped and escaped from a serial killer. And I believe there is a video that goes viral, and the man who actually hasn't been captured is now trying to get a hold of her again, and we kind of follow that, and it's going to be the start of a series. So I don't know if the series is going to follow this particular story or if it's going to just follow that FBI agent with different mysteries that she encounters over time. But I thought this one sounded pretty interesting with that serial killer aspect thrown in there. And the next one is The Girls of Bracken Hill by Kate Moretti, and this is about a girl who goes missing. Her sister finds some new, what she believes is new evidence to help her discover what actually happened to her because she was never found, and it just kind of follows that sister. And I think it said that some things come up from the sister's past that could directly relate to her sister's disappearance all those years ago. And the next one is yet another thriller that I've chose from Amazon First Reads, and it is Open House by Katie Size, and it is another girl who's gone missing years before, and it has haunted this town, and now another girl is murdered and discovered in an open house, and the mystery is kind of cracked open again and gets new fuel behind it. And the last book that I want to discuss with you guys is one that I pre-ordered a couple of days before it was actually supposed to be published, and I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm so excited about this one. But it is The Ravens by KASS and Danielle Paige, and this one is about a sorority who are witches, and that plot point alone sold me on this book. So I don't know much more about it other than the fact that I think that they're trying to keep the fact that there are witches a secret, and it is also going to be the first in a series. So very eager to get into that one. And I don't know, sorority and witches, that's just two words that sold me. So that is all the books I have for you guys. I had some technical difficulties. It took forever to get this done, but I'm so glad that it is finally done and I can share it with you guys, and I can't wait to talk about all of these with you. But for now, remember that you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Those links are in the description below. But until next time, guys, that is all I have today. Bye!